Okay, recording now.
Great, thanks everyone. Welcome. Yeah, we're really delighted to have this sort of further in-depth session with EY. They hosted our conference, which I think most of the people on the call went to. And we really wanted to give the opportunity to have a bit more of a dive into what Nexus means, and particularly more for the partners. We've had a separate session with the members on Friday and the Insurtechs. We really see these platform as a way to really sort of solve the challenge between the insurers that are sort of struggling with all their different legacy systems and need to manage their outsourcing, and then need to do that in a sort of coherent manner. And then the opportunity that working with the Insurtechs has, but you know, platforms like Nexus are a way to sort of really bridge that gap. And so we think it's a really good sort of alignment with InsurtechLIVE Australia, and I guess that's why EY has been one of our kind of great supporters from day one. Now I can see that Andy, is Andy on the call? He was there. Yep, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Simone. Sorry, just made it in time.
No, that's it. We should have given another minute. I was just giving a bit of intro. So I'll hand over to you for a bit of an intro, and then we'll kick off.
Great, thanks, Simone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. What we wanted to do, for those of you that at the InsurtechLIVE event, Dave and I had 15 minutes in front of the audience there to give a very brief overview of Nexus for insurance. In discussions with Simone, InsurtechLIVE Australia, we're really grateful they're open to supporting us to offer a couple of other sessions. So we had a half an hour with the members last week, talking about Nexus really from the angle of the role of Insurtechs within the Nexus ecosystem and the value that they can provide. And today is focused on partners, as you will know, a slightly different focus, again, talking about Nexus, but more about what we have in the ecosystem, in addition to being able to plug in various Insurtechs. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, we'll just sort of take a step back and give a bit of an overview of what Nexus is and why we're focused on building it out. So if we go to the next slide.
You got that, Andy?
Yeah, it's just come up. So I'm not going to drain this slide, but one of the things that we do in EY is think about the future of insurance, both P&C, life and health, and from various different sectors. So when we think about an aspect of that around customer needs, particularly in personal lines and small business, what we see are a whole range of new demands from customers that we think need to be reflected back into the propositions of insurers. And we've given some, I guess, names to some of these personas. There's some quite interesting ones that we have.
I think we've lost Andy, have we? Is it just us?
I think we've lost Andy's sound.
Just
you go, Dave.
Yeah, we have seemed to have lost Andy. I was just wondering whether it was me that had frozen, but it looks like we've lost Andy.
No, it looks fine. Yep, do you want to jump in, Dave?
Let me try and pick up those. So as I said, we won't drain this one, but a couple of things to bring out there. Andy, I think, called out at the InsurTech the rise of microinsurance and embedded insurance. That's something that we're seeing a lot of demand for, although not particularly well defined as to, I suppose it can mean many things to many people. Let me move on to the next slide. Apologies, I've been lost Andy. So let me just give a little background about Nexus. So I've been working in insurance for 30 years now, and 20 of that in consulting. And the challenges that face insurers haven't really changed over that 20 years. They've typically grown by acquisition, which leads to multiple legacy systems. And that in turn leads to slow speed to market and a high maintenance cost. And those challenges haven't gone away, but arguably because of the stuff that we saw in the previous slide, they become more acute. So the things that Andy mentioned, some of those solutions have changed. Whilst the solutions have changed, And we may still do a rip and replace, which is the standard answer to all those legacy systems. There is now alternatives of replacing in a more plug and play manner, potentially delivered via managed service. Now, if I just go on to how do those challenges that we see in the insurance companies manifest for the customers and the various other players in the value chain. So customers feel that insurers don't have a good view of their needs, and they want a digital experience. Brokers want a holistic view of their customers and want digital tools to help them sell to the customers. Product owners become frustrated because they can't deliver the products to the market and quickly tailor them to individual needs. The technologists want to be enabling business strategy, but instead they're stuck with an aging tech system, and most of their job is around keeping the lights on or regulatory updates. And insurtechs want to work with insurers, but they need to demonstrate where they fit as part of that overall ecosystem. We think that distills down to sort of 4 key areas that insurers are trying to achieve. That's launch innovative products and brands, improve customer and partner experience, improve efficiency by digitizing operation, and modernize aging systems. And as I mentioned before, perhaps in a continuous manner rather than a once every 30 years, which has tended to be the norm. And sometimes it's even less frequently than once every 30 years. This is where we think Nexus comes in. So we have an ecosystem of partners and a pre-built library of components which can significantly increase speed to value. We look to leverage hyper-personalization in order to significantly improve digital experiences. Our ecosystem includes a number of capabilities to transform operations at speed and scale. And finally, we've leveraged our partners to build low-code, no-code front ends onto legacy systems via Nexus Connect, and that gradually replaces those legacy components. And we'll look at that a little bit later on in one of the case studies that I'll talk to. So maybe I want to take a step back and say, so actually, what is it? And that we have an architectural picture here. I'm going to pause after this one in case there are any questions on this. But this is an architectural picture showing all the various angles of Nexus. So I'm going to actually start in the middle rather than at the top. So Nexus Connect is the integration layer that combines all of the other things that you see on that page. And then I'm going to go clockwise around the bottom. So we have a number of pre-built connectors that are built into our ecosystem of partners. And I'll come on to that in the next slide. We've got some ready-made components, modular components rather, that form the backbone of how everything hangs together with Nexus. We've built some industry solutions, particularly where we think there are gaps in the market. So recently I've been working a lot with underwriting work, mentioned the complex and specialty. We'll talk to insurance in a box as one of the case studies that Andy will talk to again later. And finally, we've built a number of accelerators to increase speed to market. I'll pause on that there before I move on to the actual partners, in case there are anybody who wants to ask a question around how this slide relates to the outcomes. And if you do want to put some questions in the chat, by all means, Adrian will pick those up and pass them to me later, which I'll answer at a later time on this call. Doesn't look like there are any questions, so let me move on to the next slide. So here we've got an example of some of our partners. I mentioned that we have those ready-built connectors, and as well as those ready-built connectors, we have a curated ecosystem of third parties. In many cases, we have connected that each of these will play in a niche space, but in many cases, we've connected them to create something more holistic. So if I just talk about if Uncork is a low-code, no-code front-end development tool. We've used that in one of the use cases you'll see, and we're also in Japan. We're looking at connecting that with Coherent, which turns the classic Excel spreadsheet rater that the actuaries love it uses that as source code and turns that into an API. So by combining Uncork and Coherent, we've made a quote and buy system that can link into whatever is the legacy backend. On the bottom right, you'll see all of the traditional players around the policy admin systems and claim systems, as well as some other newer insurtechs and data providers. Again, I'll pause there if there are any questions. Okay, let me move on to the case studies then. Excuse me while I just take a sip of my tea. So this was a large Asia Pac life insurer, and they were looking to modernize their customer experience and gradually modernize their tech stack with an incremental change rather than a big bang. And they wanted to do this with minimal impact onto the customer. And so we applied here initially an Uncork front end via Nexus Connect onto their legacy claim system to develop digital journeys, new digital journeys. They didn't have any for their claims process. The subsequent steps are then to introduce a modern claim system, but with the same digital journey. So that plays back to minimize the customer impact. And also a modern policy system for launching new products, again, built onto with that same end-to-end customer journey. What this allows them to do is gradually run down the legacy. And those of you who work in life insurance will know that migrations in life insurance are significantly harder than in general insurance because there is no renewal date to help you change certain terms and conditions. So there's a gradual modernization of the tech stack and a runoff of the legacy. So new claims are written on the new claims platform, but the old ones can run off. And new products and new policies written on those new products are written on the new policy admin system, but the legacy ones still run off without migration, and still have that unified customer journey. Again, I'll pause there for any questions. No, then I'll hand to Andy for the next case study.
I think Andy's been dropping in and out. I can see him on, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think I should be okay now, Simone. Sorry, I've had some technical problems. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, that's good.
All right, thanks. So Nationwide Spa is a really interesting one. You've probably heard of Nationwide. They're a major US insurer who have a reasonably modern technology platform, invested many tens of millions of dollars in that over the years. But what when looking at launching a new auto insurance product, a usage-based product aimed at the, I guess, the youth market in the US, what they found was trying to do that on their existing stack was just not going to be cost viable from a cost perspective, or B, get the offering out to market quickly enough. So what they wanted to do was launch an auto insurance app that customers enjoyed using and could give them a quote in less than a minute, have premiums that were based on the driver's performance, and the set of services that EY was able to offer, powered by Nexus, using Socotra as the product development rating solution, was able to deliver that in about 6 months time to market, which is vastly quicker than they would have been able to do on their legacy platform. So it looks like we're ahead of time. Any comments or questions on that? or anything that we've been through up until now?
Andy, there's still sufficient time if you wanted to elaborate anything further. I just had a question. It's Anna here. For any partners or sort of businesses looking to link in with a certain system or tech area of their business, what's the best way for them to sort of take that first step in terms of understanding what their needs are?
Yeah, just come to Dave or I on the call. We've got a fairly well-defined process for insurtechs to engage with us so that we can understand what their value proposition is, whether that meets the needs of the Nexus ecosystem, and then a whole onboarding process. And we've done that for many insurtechs. From a partner perspective, from the insurers, if there's a business challenge that is struggling to meet through the existing tech landscape that's present, please again come and have a conversation with us, because what we've got is access to a whole bunch of new tech that insurers might not have, but also one of the tenets of Nexus is to maximize what you already do have, and then be able to plug that in and integrate that into other pieces. So I think whether there's a business problem that insurers have, or whether there's a proposition that a tech provider has, just please reach out to us, and we're very, very happy to talk through it.
And probably worth adding, obviously a lot of this stuff is new, and there might be a tendency to stick with what you know, which is the rip and replace of the entire policy admin system. What we like to do is do a proof of concept. So we'll demonstrate, and that's exactly what we did with the Asia Pac life insurer. We showed how we could connect the new front end directly into their legacy back end with a test process. So there's not a commitment to. I liken it like the penguin sitting on the edge of the ice floe, wondering who's going to jump in first in case there's a killer whale in there. Very rarely does an insurance company want to be brave and be the first to do something. So we do offer that capability where we can do the proof of concept. In fact, we encourage it. Do that proof of concept first, and to test and learn.
Yeah, 100%, Dave. And I got a question from Vanessa around how do we determine which types of insurtechs we partner with. So it's based around requirements, Vanessa. So we've got this process that's centrally coordinated by a guy called Terry Luciano, who was on the member call that we had last week. So what Terry's job is to do is to collate what we view to be Nexus requirements, which are in turn based on what we see the needs of our clients globally, and that's across not only insurance but also banking and wealth. And what we do then is we're in a constant process of evaluating insurtechs to see whether they meet the requirements. That's the first step, and then there are a whole bunch of other assessments we do in terms of what that insurtech offers, how well set up, how clear and valuable the value proposition is, how well set up that insurtech is from an operational perspective, how does it sit against competitors, a whole bunch of evaluation criteria that we apply, and then there's an onboarding process to bring the insurtech into the ecosystem. And we've got a lot more detail on that. We went through that in a bit of detail in the member session last week, but if anybody wants to understand more about that and wasn't part of that session, we'd be happy to take you through it.
Yeah, and adding to that, Andy, the materials from that session last week will be, or the video recording of that's available, will be available on the InsurTech Australia website, yeah. and we'll send the materials out, or be available for circulation today.
Yeah, I think there's about 1,200 InsurTechs that we've evaluated over recent years, and something like 70 or 80 that are already part of the solution.
Andy, if I could just chime in. Hi, folks. I'm Jim. I'm the Nexus Insurance Architect. Also, just because your favorite InsurTech didn't pass our vetting doesn't preclude you using them. We can still stand up connectors for your particular solution and still connect to them. So imagine a combination of our existing library along with whatever you need for your project.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Good point.
And Andy, in terms of what we had a bit of a discussion about sort of sectors and general insurance against life insurance last time, but I guess I'd also be interested in, are there anything you're seeing, in the Australian market compared to Asia and the US?
In terms of a focus in particular sectors?
Yeah,
So,
is there particular sectors that the insurers are wanting to partner with the, use Nexus to partner with the insurtechs on? Does that differ, by sector or geography?
yeah, Dave, have you got a view on that?
Yeah, I think, well, so in Australia, we're seeing a lot of movement right now in the long neglected area of the commercial lines. So many of the insurers have been on a journey of digitizing their personal lines, but we've seen a number of movers recently looking at the commercial lines, and at the larger end of that, which, as I said, has been long neglected by, I think, all the carriers in Australia. So that's one area. And then in the life insurance space, everybody has that legacy PAS proliferation, and that doesn't go away. And so they want to launch new products, and they want to digitize and reduce costs by digitizing and improve customer experience by digitizing. So we're getting quite a bit of conversation around how can we do that, because we've accepted that we'll never get to a single brand new PAS. And arguably, unlike general insurance, where there are a couple of contenders for what your target PAS might be, there's no obvious there's no obvious guide wire of Duck Creek dominating the market in the life insurance space, and therefore linking into legacy is an important aspect.
Thanks, Dave. That's really useful.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, we'll give you a few minutes back in your busy morning. Thanks everyone for your time. Please reach out if you want to understand anything else.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was great. See ya.
Thank you very much. Well done.
Bye.